But at the end of the day, it is the first game in the conference. There are going to be a lot of eyeballs on this, and they're going to remember who you rolled out there at quarterback. What did Hardy look like? How does this defense react? And if you come out here and have a explosive, dominant performance, and then all of a sudden they're saying, you know what, shit, maybe we messed up by not putting them in the top 25.
It's Mizzou That's Who here on KC Sports Network. Tucker Franklin hanging out with Maggie Johnson on episode 2 of season 4 of Mizzou That's Who. We got a really big episode planned for you guys. Look, Maggie, before we get into it, how are you doing? And this interview kind of got away from us a little bit.
It did, but there's so much to talk about. Like when you're talking about the season, the entire season in a whole, and like how much turnover each team had, and because we are going to be discussing the schedule with you guys if we didn't mention that. But there's just a lot that could go right, go wrong. You could go 5-7, you could go 10-2, and that's every team. I mean, maybe like a couple of teams that we'll talk about during that I don't see doing that. But there's just so much going on, and we mentioned it a little bit in the podcast with our guest. There's just so much parity in the SEC right now, and that's kind of the way you like to see it. You kind of want teams like Vanderbilt, for example, to be competing with the Alabamas and competing with the Georgia. So it makes for an exciting preseason, and it'll be an even more exciting season. I am sure of it.
You guys already know because you clicked on the podcast and you listened to it, but we got cousin Shane from that SEC podcast joining us on today's episode to break down. Pretty much, we could probably call this our season preview edition of the Mizzou That's Who podcast. So we'll get into it a little bit more. We're working on some guests prior to the start of the season and coming up on August 28th. But lots of going on there at Big Orange Vols. If you do not follow cousin Shane already on the Twitter, you should, because it's a phenomenal follow. Cousin Shane is incredible guy, great podcaster, knows his stuff, knows his ball. We talk a lot about Shane. It was great to finally have him on the podcast. Maggie, I know you guys kind of had a little bit of I don't want to say run in because it was a good thing. Like he came to your
We had a meet and greet. Yeah,
there you go.
He had said that he was coming up to the Oklahoma game last season. I invited him. Wasn't sure. I invite people all the time. You never really know if they're going to show up. And
true.
All of a sudden, I had sent him a screenshot of like where we tailgate. He had all the info that he needed, and he didn't. He just said, "Awesome, that sounds great." Didn't hear from him in the day of, and there he is, just showing up with his daughters, and we loved having them. He was so much fun. A bunch of people came over to meet him. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was great having him on the podcast. Vibes are high for that, and obviously we talk a lot of ball. So you can go find him, SEC cousin Shane, his YouTube channel over there. Obviously that SEC podcast. I'm sure you guys know about that SEC podcast. It is one of the best podcasts out there covering the Southeastern Conference. Look, Maggie, we're coming out swinging this year already with a couple of pretty strong guests with the SEC Unfiltered, Nicole Thompson, and now cousin Shane. We're setting the bar pretty high for ourselves. I don't know if we should have set the bar this high.
I know. What people don't know is that we kind of like don't plan this like super far in advance. We're kind of like who's gonna, we're kind of going with the flow. Who's gonna fit how the season is kind of rolling out. So I can assure you guys we'll have some really cool guests coming up. We've talked about a few people maybe for the Kansas game, and I think it's going to be a good season of guests.
Yeah, I think so too. And now that we've had like a season of like getting guests under our belt, kind of know how it goes, and we've made the connections with a lot of the other SEC teams. And Maggie, you make a lot of connections on social already when it comes down to the SEC social space. I think that's kind of where our bread is buttered right there, is getting the guests in there, getting you guys the perspectives that you guys want to see. And obviously we'll have the guys who cover the Missouri Tigers on a daily basis on as well every now and again too, especially during like bye weeks and stuff like that. So
I'm sure Chris Marler will make an appearance. Who doesn't love?
Well, look, South Carolina's early in the season. We can get Marler on for South Carolina. I was already thinking about that. When we're getting Marler on, we'll probably circle a couple of dates for him because he's probably been our most returning guest, right? Is Marler? He was on twice last year.
We'll call him a season regular.
Yeah, there we go. I'm excited for that one. But Let's not keep you guys any further. Here's our season preview with SEC, the largest SEC co-host this side of the Mississippi, according to his Twitter bio, Cousin Shane, Big Orange Vols. Go check it out. But before we get into that, we got to tell you about what we got going on at Holiday Distillery for week 2 of the season. I'm sure you guys know week 2, pretty darn big week for the Missouri Tigers, as they're going to be taking on the Kansas Jayhawks, and we are going to be holding a special college football watch party. You can watch, obviously, the Missouri-Kansas game there with us, but we are starting this watch party at 1 p.m., so you can catch the tail end of those 11 a.m. kickoffs into what is going to be a great contest of Missouri versus Kansas. We got a link in the description below. You can sign up for there on the Google form. Just going to ask you a couple questions, who you're bringing, if you're interested in tour as well of Holiday Distillery. But we'll be out there in Weston, Missouri. If you are in the Kansas City area, you cannot make it to Columbia, come hang out with me. I'll be there. Matt Miller will be there. ESPN's Matt Miller. Maybe next week's guest on the podcast. We'll have to see. He'll have to find out. I do have a text message out to him. We'll see if he responds. I'm sure he will. But we will get him on the podcast this season, I promise, like we did last year. He'll be on the podcast. I can promise that. But we're going to have a really great time out there. Make sure to come join us for that college football watch party for week 2. That is the September the 6th. That's also the day after the Chiefs' first game of the season. So moving and lots of moving and shaking going on that week 2. But let's not keep it. Yeah, so there's some really good games. I'm trying to think what else is there. I don't have the schedule out in front of me, but I know that there are some pretty
Michigan and Oklahoma, I would say, is definitely one of the biggest ones that's going to be there. I was looking it up. Earlier. What else was there? Because I know when we were talking about I'm pretty sure it's Iowa at Iowa State.
It is. It is Iowa State. Yep.
When I was looking up, could we possibly have college game day? I was like, I don't know. Illinois at Duke. I think that could be a good first test for Illinois. So Oklahoma State at Oregon. I mean, there's some good games to watch.
Yeah, there will be some good ones. I know that some of those kick off in that 11 a.m. window. But, I mean, again, we'll be there at 1, so you'll get to see the second half probably of those games. And then, obviously, we'll be there for the whole Missouri-Kansas game, and even into the night games. There's some good night games in that slate as well. So come hang out with us. Super excited for that. Super excited to get a Missouri-Kansas watch party on the Kansas City side of things if you can't make it to Columbia. Tickets for that game are already crazy, so if you don't have your tickets already, you're going to have to take out a second mortgage if you want to go. So instead of that, just come up to Weston, Missouri, Holiday Distillery. We'll get you set up. But, all right, here it is. Here's our interview with Cousin Shane, that SEC podcast. Cousin Shane, appreciate you hopping on the podcast, talking some SEC ball and some Missouri Tigers for this year. Super excited for our conversation. Appreciate you hopping on, Shane.
Dude, super excited to be here. I tell you what, man, it's here, isn't it? We're 15 days. I don't know when this is going to air, but we're 15 days right now away from SEC football. You guys will be kicking it off for the conference, and it cannot get here soon enough, man. I mean, I am so damn anxious.
I feel like we had Cole Thompson on from SEC Unfiltered last week, and I feel like you guys are kind of in the same position. It's like last couple of years, you guys said like one nice thing about the Missouri Tigers, and it's like every Mizzou fan in the whole world like loves you. So I'm super excited to have you on. I know Tiger fans will be excited to hear you as well.
Yeah, it was awesome. You know, we were there last year against the Oklahoma Sooners, and it's funny because we went up and watched a basketball game the day before. And I'm going up, and I got my girls with me and everything. And we walked by this one guy. He goes, "That guy looks like Cousin Shane." You know, of course, I mean, I guess they say that about every fat guy that's walking around on campus there. But my daughter, she turned around, and she goes, "Did they just say Cousin Shane?" And I was like, "Yeah." I said, I've said some pretty nice things about the Mizzou community here, and I'll tell you what, they embraced us with arms wide open, and it was awesome. And I tell you what, my daughter is now at the point where she is looking at going to school to Mizzou because she had so much fun up there.
We loved having you guys at our tailgate. I know you bebopped around. Yeah. You kind of started at our tailgate, I think, and we got
it was catfish, wasn't it? Or there was not catfish, it was fish. Fish fry.
Our fish fry was that game, and we had so many people stop by, and they were like, "Holy crap!" Shout out to Will who doesn't.
It was awesome. No, we had a blast. Some of the best food. That was probably the best. That was the best food that I had while I was up there. Even some of the restaurants. I got a lot of people saying you got to go to some of the restaurants. And don't get me wrong, the restaurants were fantastic, but that fish fry was spot on. Maybe I was just because I was so damn hungry, by the time we got up there. But I was ready for it.
Oh, that's awesome. Love to see it. Well, before we dive into it, Shane, we're going to get into the schedule, Missouri schedule here. As you mentioned, just right around the corner, Labor Day weekend, they play on that Thursday, August 28th. I mean, we are right there for it. But you got anything on the schedule? You plan on coming to Columbia this year? Anything piquing your interest?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're looking at September 6th. The little Bluebirds are going to come over and play some football, and I haven't 100% committed, but we do have the accommodations on lockdown, which apparently was an issue last season. So I wanted to go ahead and get that in there. Right. But that's the one we've got penciled. The problem I'm running into is we've got a couple of too many irons in the fire. This is a loaded football season. And one of the downsides, and I don't want you to feel bad for me. I love watching college football. I love watching SEC football. But one of the problems, especially early in the year, is there's so many football games. Week 1, we got 16 games to consume. It's not like we're in the conference here. So that's a lot that I got to take in, because when we do go live on that SEC podcast, I want to give, 100% to all the football fan base. And when you do a game, it really cuts into a lot of that time.
That's for sure. I can tell you that when we did a college football wide show for a little bit here at KC Sports Network, and if I would go out to a Mizzou game and be like, wait, I gotta feel like I was cramming for a test, and especially when the NFL football is on the next day too, you get football overload. But let's just start at the top of the schedule then. That game that I mentioned, Central Arkansas comes into town. Missouri still has some questions at quarterback. They could kind of see a lot of stuff fleshed out here. What are you kind of looking for in that game against Central Arkansas as they come to Columbia?
Well, I think the big one is this is your opportunity to steal some of the nation's viewership, if you will. A lot of people look at these week 1 games and they put a little asterisk, they put a little pin on it and say, this is what this football team is. And again, I don't think this is a ball game at all, right? I feel like Eli Drinkwitz could come out there at quarterback and we're going to win this thing. But at the end of the day, it is the first game in the conference. There are going to be a lot of eyeballs on this, and they're going to remember who you rolled out there at quarterback. What did Hardy look like? How does this defense react? And if you come out here and have a explosive, dominant performance, and then all of a sudden they're saying, you know what, shit, maybe we messed up by not putting them in the top 25.
Well, you make a good point, because that issue came in 2023 when we played Middle Tennessee State, right? And all eyes were kind of on like, what type of team is Mizzou going to be, because they did return a lot of people. They were coming off a pretty bad season, lost some weird games, the Kentucky game and all of that stuff. And then you kind of suck. Like you kind of suck. You almost lose that game. You're about to go into K-State and you kind of don't know what your team's identity is, and you may not still after this game, but it does give everybody the opportunity to be like, oh, okay, their offense is working on all cylinders.
And Mizzou did that a little bit, even last season. There was a couple of games you're scratching your head. Vanderbilt was one of those, which we didn't know at the time. Vanderbilt turned out to be a pretty good football team.
Yeah, we dropped four spots after winning that game.
Exactly. So I just feel like, a lot of that up the front half of the schedule, it really kind of skews what happens on the back half. If Mizzou's one of those 9-3 schools, and I'm not saying they're going to be, but if they start out sluggish, they will be left behind because of a slow start. So it's very important, especially for Mizzou to hit the ground running.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one too, especially with the quarterback conversation. Eli Drinkwitz playing that pretty coy, right? As you kind of would anticipate him to. We were talking before that we started the podcast. These SEC coaches, these college coaches are the most paranoid bunch of people. You put them in a room, they'll be looking over their shoulder every half second because they think everyone's out to get them. But let's talk about that big one too, because another part about this Missouri schedule is they don't leave the state of Missouri until October 18th. So they have all these home games right in a row, and they host a renewed rivalry with the Kansas Jayhawks, the Kansas Jayhawks team that, is getting all kinds of donations. They're getting a new stadium. They got their quarterback back. They got a lot of momentum over there at KU in Lawrence. What are your thoughts on this game, Shane?
Well, I mean, I still don't appreciate the depth of this rivalry. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm sitting there watching an Oklahoma game that it was a tight one at that moment, and they're singing a song about a team they haven't played in years. You know, and I'm like, I don't know if you see it, but I've got the book here, you know, which I had to do the audio version. I can't, I'm terrible at reading. There's not as many pictures in there as you would think, but actually, I ain't gonna bullshit you. Mike is reading it right now, and he's giving me the clip notes. Actually, I haven't read since the 9th grade, so. But I do not appreciate the rivalry because I've heard everything from terrorist. I've heard everything from bloodshed. I mean, this is more than football, but it has been a long time. So I that's why I booked it, because I thought, man, this is going to be an absolute awesome matchup, and definitely one Mizzou cannot afford to lose. You know, I think Kansas is playing with house money coming over here to Columbia. And that's how you got to think about this one. They're not expected to win this game, but if they do, it would be detrimental to what Drink has put together here the last couple seasons.
You're definitely right about the rivalry. It's hard to understand it if you're not in it, just because it hasn't been played since 2011, but like, it's so much more than football. It's think about like, the Iron Bowl and like the Egg Bowl, and when everybody in that state like lives and works and does all this stuff together all the time. That's what Kansas City is. It's you are around Kansas Jayhawks and they're around Mizzou Tigers every single day. So you can't ever get past this rivalry.
Right.
It's just something that like it's really hard to explain. And then you look at rivalries like the Deep South's oldest rivalry. That rivalry is not as old as the Border War. Mm-hmm. So, which is crazy. People don't even understand that. I think before we left for the SEC, it was tied for the second oldest rivalry in Power 4. So, yes, it matters. Yes, it's old. Yes, people might not understand it because it hasn't been played, but this is an intense rivalry.
Yeah, and I love it. I mean, why would you not? This is why we love college football, because, a game like that, you have to choose a camp. You're either in Kansas camp or Mizzou camp. Same with, you mentioned the Iron Bowl. I think it's comparable to that, because Alabama, Auburn, they're neighbors. There's house dividers. There's families that have separated because of this football game or basketball game in your case too. So I love it, and it makes for the ribbing much. I'm terrible. I didn't do enough research, but is this like a home and home, or is this a one-off?
So they have a home and home, and then they do it with Illinois too. So they're going Illinois for 2 years after they do a home and home. I think they're doing 4 of KU, and then they do 2 of Illinois, and then 2 of KU. It's kind of how it sets up, according to FB schedules. But they're trying to do get back to those, like the bragging rights game in Illinois on the other side of the state, the Kansas game on this one. But I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm glad they're doing home and homes. They're not going to the neutral site, because they used to play it at Arrowhead, and which is cool venue, right? I live 10 minutes away from Arrowhead, so obviously pretty biased towards that venue, and that'd be pretty sick for me if it was there. But playing these games on campus is, I think, so much better. You talk about the Florida Georgia rivalry, it plays in Jacksonville, but they're gonna have it in these on the campuses after when they're going into the renovations for the Jaguar Stadium. Playing it on campus, I think, elevates the rivalry so much.
Yep. Yeah, you got to have it. Do away with neutral sites. I'm first in line with that one. Tennessee Syracuse is going to be playing down there in Atlanta. It's like, man, what are we doing? Remember the last time Tennessee went to Syracuse to win a football game? Oh yeah, it ended with a field goal. It ended in a 1998 national championship. That you go back to that first game wondering, like, what if this happened? I think it's absolutely asinine to have these neutral site games. Don't get me wrong. I know what it's about. It's about money. We're not going to lie, but at the end of the day, what's best for the fans? It's a home and home.
And I can't even remember the last time. Was it 2006? Maybe the last time that they even played outside of Arrowhead. I think they used to do the home and homes. Then they played quite 5 or so years at Arrowhead. And then
right.
obviously we haven't played since. So I think it was like 2006. So yeah, it's been a really long time. And it's hard even maybe for a lot of these players, especially at Mizzou, who both teams get their players from all over the country. But I think a lot of people in state Kansas, they get a lot of guys that stay in state as well. But just to like explain to them what this rivalry means and to go to that rival campus and to experience that type of play, I think is going to be really cool. Like you have Jalen Daniels, who's been at Kansas for like 73 years and like he's never played on Mizzou's campus. So right. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Only 6, everybody to 6. But yeah, it is pretty cool to have like that happening as like a super fan.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And we had Drink come over to the table and he talked about making that game important to those kids because a lot of those kids in that locker room don't appreciate the rivalry, kind of like myself, I mean, you guys grew up in it, you understand it, but trying to get that in that locker room is tough to do. So yeah, but he's bringing historians in, he's bringing he will find juice in there somewhere, but yeah, it's just kind of fun watching that side as well.
You can't put it by Eli Drinkwitz. He's going to find chips wherever he can.
Oh, yeah.
That's one thing about him.
But did you see what Lance Leipold did the other day? He sent a, like, happy, like, first week back of camp to Missouri football teams.
No.
It was just an entire post and, like, a graphic. And it said Missouri football teams. And I was like, oh, no. Oh, no.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm pumped up for that one. And you're mentioning quarterback. That's why the only real reason, other than it being the first game of the year, I'm looking for that game is like the quarterback situation needs to be handled, I think, quicker than later. I mean, I was glad. I'm a little more worried about the offensive line. I thought that was kind of a surprise, the last second jumble here. And even Drink's been out saying, hey, yeah, we have a quarterback race, but I'm telling you right now, the problem we're having is this front five. So getting that together and gelled by that Kansas game so there's no hiccups, that's the main thing I'm looking for week 1 because you cannot afford to lose to Kansas.
Absolutely. 100% agree. They still stay on the non-con schedule. They take on the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns, one of the maybe top names for any team, school, anywhere, I think. That is incredible mascot. They got an incredible aesthetic. Truthfully, hand up, this one's on me. I don't know a whole lot about Louisiana football right now. I'll be honest with you. But what do you think about this one, Shane?
Well, I think Napier will be back there next year. So no, I'm joking. The Ragin Cajuns, I mean, obviously this is a team I like to pick playing video games and trying to build a dynasty, but it's definitely not one that's going to be competitive this year. No, this is a lot of people ask why I like Missouri's schedule. It's not just the flurry of home games, but you see a pattern. You after the Kansas game, you got the Ragin Cajuns. Then you got South Carolina, Bama. You drop to a UMass. It's like you have time to kind of work out this because there's going to be some bumps and bruises, man. I mean, that's part of the reason we kind of fell short last year, I thought. But I just think the schedule placement, you guys have truly been blessed here. This won't be a football game. I don't know why I've talked so long about the Ragin Cajuns, but yeah, this one will be over in 2 quarters.
One of my favorite things about this game, the only favorite thing I have about this game is that Ahmad Hardy knows the rivalry because he played at ULM and it's the Ragin Cajuns. He ran for 172 yards on 28 carries that game last year. I like maybe for that to carry over a little bit. He might maybe still feel a little bit of that hate, and hopefully our offensive lines,
Hey, Hardy, I say, I know they're sitting him out right now, which is very smart. He should be bubble wrapped and not near the probably field till September 6th. But I do like the fact that this is one of those games that he could cut loose in. And, there's a lot of people, Mike included, that thinks Hardy will be the leading rusher in the country by the end of the season. These are the games that are going to be on those highlight reels. If you're going to have a Heisman winner, you may have it in September 13th getting a 200 yards by Hardy.
That could be a big breakout game for him too. I
Yeah.
know that there's a lot of people are very high on Hardy, rightfully so for what he did at ULM. He had an incredible year at ULM. Comes to Missouri with a lot of eligibility left too. That's what was really enticing about that transfer there. But let's talk about this one about South Carolina because they come down. And that's going to be a big one. Right now, there's not a time scheduled for that game because there's a potential it could be a pretty darn big one pretty early on in the season with the Gamecocks coming to Columbia for, I believe they call it the Mayor's Trophy, right? Is that what the trophy is?
Cup.
Mayor's Cup.
Yeah. There should be Battle of Columbia. I don't know why they missed that one, but yeah, there is a trophy for it. It is kind of surprising that it is a rivalry, but damn, it's turned into a good game to watch. If you're outside looking in, this one's a fun matchup.
You really never know what you're going to get. We've seen monsoon comebacks, and we've seen the doink off the goalposts in 2013, and last year's game was lived up to the hype as well. So, yeah, I always like playing South Carolina. I kind of wish South Carolina would be, if they end up doing that model where you have 3 teams. I kind of wish that South Carolina would be that team just because these games are so awesome. But yeah, Mizzou's 4-2 when hosting the Gamecocks in Columbia. They've won 5 of the last 6 games against them as well. I really, really like Lenora Sellers. He's such a mobile quarterback. His arm's actually underrated, I think. I actually think he has a pretty good arm. He has Nick Harbor catching the ball for him.
Yeah.
Questions on the defense. Obviously, they lost Kyle Kennard. They do bring back Dylan Stewart. I think, Mizzou's going to have to score a lot of points to win that game because I think that their offense is so good. But I'm excited for this one. It could maybe go either way. You can't. Yeah. It's hard for me to pick in this game because the games are always so crazy.
It helps it's at home, but there's a couple of things you want to keep in mind. They got Sewell. They're trying to free him up with the NCAA. Mm-hmm. Don't know if that's going to happen, but Beamer was pretty optimistic the other day in his press conference. And, that's one thing he made mention. This is the deepest running back and wide receiver room he's had since he's been in Columbia. You pair that with the Lenora Sellers. That's dangerous. Now, obviously, we're going to have revamped offensive line. You mentioned the defense. That's just one you can't let get away because I honestly, I feel like Drink's going to try to get back to the ground and pound, get back to the smothering defense, hold the ball, keep the ball. And teams like South Carolina that may have the ability to score quick, that I feel like that could be a problem. But I do like Mizzou secondary. This will be a massive test for them and get them right. But you're right. You don't know where this one's going. I remember at Media Days, we talked to all these South Carolina guys just prior to last year, and they'd be like, we should be winning this game, but we're not. And I don't know why. That is kind of the mentality that South Carolina has had leading up to this one. But this truly is a coin toss game, and this is going to come down to a couple of early mistakes. Who makes those, whether it be on South Carolina, whether it be on Mizzou's, I think that's going to dictate who wins this football game.
Lenora Sellers last year, obviously this is last year, right? Mm-hmm. 353 and 5 tutties. You can't have him do that again if you want to have a shot to win this game. Maggie and I were talking about it with Cole Thompson last week of Missouri's defense traditionally struggles with these mobile scrambling type quarterbacks, and he is kind of a recipe for disaster. I think South Carolina is kind of a matchup nightmare. For what Missouri wants to do on the defensive side of the ball and like what they defend. Hopefully we're proven wrong by that. They get a mobile quarterback very early, right? In Kansas, they get to see Jalen Daniels there. Not Jaden Daniels. That'd be wild if he was there. That'd be crazy.
Came back for another chance.
Yeah. When he committed to Missouri for 15 minutes. Remember that? That was fun. But I think that this one is going to be I don't want to be too hyperbolic with this, but it could be a season-defining game. And I know it's early, but if you're able to beat the AP preseason 13th team in the country, week 4 of the season after to go 4-0, I mean, you feel pretty darn good about how Missouri can fare up later on in the schedule if they're beating a team like South Carolina that has the talent and is so highly touted as it is coming into the year.
Mike called this a playoff eliminator. That's how important he says this September 20th game is. This is basically a play-in for the college football playoffs, and whichever team wins can get in. Whichever teams lose, they're dead to him because he feels like you're going to find a couple more losses. I mean, the SEC is the SEC. Yeah. You're going to lose games. So he feels like this is the one, though, that could stop somebody from making that. I mean, it did last year. Say what you want, but there's reason that Mizzou wasn't in that conversation to college football playoffs because they lost this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think if Mizzou loses this game, you basically have to be perfect the rest of the season. You might be able to lose the next one, but people are still, I think even if Mizzou would have beat South Carolina last year, you're still sitting maybe in that 13th spot because they're like, obviously you watched Mizzou. We dropped 4 spots for beating Vandy. We dropped 2 spots for beating Boston College. And then for losing to Texas A&M, we dropped 12. Right. We don't get the benefit of the doubt that a lot of other teams do. So I think we would have still been sitting at 12 or 13 and got passed up by the Group of 5 team. So I don't think it really would have mattered last year with Mizzou at 10-2. So I really think that, I mean, our schedule might be a little bit harder this year. I don't think we were number 20 last year. I can't exactly remember. But I think that you're going to have to do a lot, and you might have to win convincingly in some of those games.
For sure. And you know, again, what ultimately hurt Missouri last year was the games you lost were the ones people were watching. You know, we wanted to see the South Carolina game because it had so much riding on it. That Texas A&M game was built up so high. The Alabama game, you know, these are games we don't want to talk about, but these are the games that most people watch. So when they're voting, like these AP poll voters, when they're voting, this is what they're voting on is what they actually watched over the weekend. They didn't watch UMass. They didn't watch the Ragin' Cajuns, you know, even Kansas, even though it's a huge rivalry, there probably won't be as many people watching it because there's so much content coming out week 2.
Yep. Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Folks, nothing beats hanging out with the boys on a hot summer day and watching some baseball. And the simplest way that you all can get in on the action is to download the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It is crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. And the best part is Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6, and right now new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and then use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos. Well, after this game, they pretty much get 2 bye weeks. They have homecoming against UMass, but then they do have the bye week. I don't know if there's much talk about the UMass game, truthfully. Glad that they got this one in Columbia. They don't have to go to UMass this year. Also, it's slated to be a night game, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, so shout out They finally got a night game for homecoming. So the last few years, an 11 a.m. kickoff. People have been having to get up early for that. But let's talk about Alabama, because this last game on Saturday, October the 11th, is the last game in this stretch where they have it home before they hit the road for the first time.
Correct.
They get those two, as I mentioned, the two bye weeks. I'm going to say it in air quotes, bye weeks, with the UMass game and then the off week. And Alabama, the preseason number 8 team in the country, comes to town. How do you think that the Tigers stack up against Bama this year?
I mean, I think better. Obviously last year was, Brady was fighting for his damn life out there. We just didn't have a quarterback situation, and now we got apparently 3 to choose from, so I feel like we're in a better spot there. And unfortunately, being handicapped coming into that thing, coming in with a quarterback that didn't have experience, I feel like this has got to be the year, right? If you're going to get Alabama, if you're going to win one of the big games, this is a big game. This is a marquee game. South Carolina's a good one, but Alabama is the one that this is where you grab attention right here. So this is one that most people have circled. I watch season ticket holders selling, like, hey, I've got this game, but you ain't touching this one. Everybody's coming to the Alabama matchup, and I feel like this is going to be a good year, but without Jalen, it's going to be a different year. We got Ty out here. He just got named the starting quarterback there at Alabama. I do think Alabama has improved on their defense, but then as soon as I say that, we see an LSU game, or we see an Oklahoma game. We're like, well, it doesn't matter if they're all coming back if they didn't play well together. So this is an Alabama team that you could rock, because if I'm not mistaken, they're just coming off the Georgia game. I don't have all the schedules pulled up, but there may be a chance here that they're coming off a loss and you're hitting them at the right time.
They actually are coming off of Vanderbilt, which I think is very interesting and keeps things kind of like, is Vanderbilt going into that game like, all hyped up? I see Alabama leveling Vanderbilt in this game because they got embarrassed last year. Yeah. So I'm actually kind of hoping that it's such an upper that they're maybe on that downside coming with that game. And they've also at this point already played Florida State, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Vandy. So I mean, it's actually insane when you think of their schedule to start the year versus our schedule to start the year. It's a little bit different, but no, I really like Alabama's defense. I think it's going to be one of the best in the SEC. They do return a lot on offense despite having Ty Simpson, who is a former 5-star. So let's not say that he's going to be a dud or anything, but they have Jim Miller coming back. I mean, they have obviously the most talked about 17-year-old of all time, Ryan Williams, coming back, who is now 18 and actually a freshman in college, that age. But I like everything they have on offense. I like everything they have on defense. It's going to be interesting to see if Drink can flip that script from last year. Yeah. Where, you weren't prepared, really. I mean, you weren't prepared. You weren't prepared for something to happen to Brady. And Brady was already hurt. So then he hurts his hand and you just have nothing. Yeah. You have nothing. Drew Pine threw 3 interceptions, and I was there and I witnessed it in person. And at some point, you're just sitting there like, well, I may as well just have some fun and drink some alcohol.
There's you had some of them games. Even the A&M game. If you watch the tape, it was like moments of like Lady Luck has never been on a football team side more than it was that day. If you really break the film down, Texas A&M did not destroy Mizzou. Mizzou kind of shot themselves in the foot many, many times, but there was also bad calls and other stuff that happened. Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
we saw that guy get picked up many times.
Yeah, and then but the Alabama side, if you're looking at, like you said, Florida State. Who knows? Who knows who wins that game? This ain't last year's Florida State team. You got the Georgia Bulldogs. You got Vanderbilt, which is going to give you absolutely everything you can because of all the shit Pavia said this offseason. And then you got Mizzou sitting there right before Tennessee, the third Saturday in October. So I'm just telling you, I'm not saying that it's going to happen. I just feel like if there's a sweet spot to have that game, you got it on October 11th. That's a good one.
Yeah,
They're coming they're coming off of Vanderbilt, and we're coming off a bye.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, seriously, I don't know.
Good timing.
It's a good
I don't
spot.
know who paid the money down there, but you guys got it, right? Somebody got mad at me the other day because I said something about Mizzou's schedule, and they were just like, it's not the hard. I'm like, who gives a shit? Like, you call Oklahoma right now, you call Florida, they'd give their first
switch.
Yeah, absolutely. They give their first child to have that schedule. So enjoy it.
I feel like people just need, like, they have this thing that they need to be like, yeah, but it's still a top 20 schedule. It is still a top 20 schedule.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
it is. It's still, and as everybody has said, like, you heard it all over SEC media days, like, there is no such thing as an easy schedule.
Exactly.
But there are easier schedules.
Yeah.
In the SEC.
But that's why ugly losses hurt that much more for Mizzou. You know, you can't. I'm not saying there's a great loss. There's never a great loss, but when you multiple scores, it's like that's going to get you knocked more than anything because they're going to say, "Oh, well, look, when they finally play as somebody with a pulse, this is what happens." So you can't do that. You got to pull. I don't want to say upsets because you're probably going to be favored in some of these games. You've got to just win. You got to go out here and do what Drink knows how to do.
Yeah, that's big. It's for Missouri, that's always how it's been. You got to win the games you should.
Yeah.
And you got to kind of control that. And especially, we kind of talked about that last week a little bit too, of just like, especially with the national narrative around Mizzou and kind of how they are a little bit forgotten. You just have to take care of your business when you do.
That's it.
Another game that they're going to have to take care of business because of probably how the game ended last year is probably going to stick around with Auburn a little bit here when they go down to Jordan-Hare Stadium. Auburn was in for homecoming. Brady Cook comes back and has that whole cortisone shot that they didn't want to say was a cortisone shot. And he has that miraculous game against the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah.
This is a different Auburn team. This is a completely different Auburn team. The way it looks, the way it is. This is going to be an interesting one. Again, this is going to be one that I think is going to be pretty tough for Missouri.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be the same Jackson, and I don't think this is going to be the same Auburn. This is my dark horse for a playoff team. That's how good I think Auburn can be, and so you just got to be ready. Brace yourself. This isn't last year's. That's the nice thing about the NIL and transfer portal is you can fix things immediately, and that's exactly what they did. This is a really good wide receiver room, probably arguably the two best receivers in the country. They're loaded. The offensive line's a lot better than Jackson had to deal with. The defense is still serviceable. I'm not going to say they're going to win awards or anything like that, but the one thing that I will point out with Auburn, and everybody knows the Achilles heel, is the head football coach, Hugh Freeze. And if this thing gets undone on Friday against Baylor, the first game of the year, this is a team that I can see imploding. I talked about this morning on SEC Hangover that if you drop that game, Oklahoma, you're probably losing. A&M, you're probably losing. Georgia, you're probably losing. And guess who's following all those teams? Mizzou. So Auburn is like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You don't know which one's going to show up. They could be a juggernaut or they could be firing Hugh Freeze by week 7. So that's the one you're hoping shows up, because if this one shows up, it's going to be a tough football game. I'm not going to lie to you. It's at home. It's not an easy place to play.
No, it's
or their home.
Yeah. I hate playing there, to be honest with you, after what happened to us in 2022 with that fumble on the 1 yard, the missed chip shot, the fumble on the 1 yard line. We haven't been back there since then. So I'm kind of hoping the Drink was embarrassed enough not to get him that embarrassed again. But this is one of those things with it being the first game, the first road game for Mizzou. You have to be prepared because you weren't prepared when you went to Texas A&M last year and you got embarrassed because you weren't prepared. Right. So I think it's going to be really big, to be prepared. I think another thing that Mizzou is going to have to do is win the turnover battle. Auburn turned the ball over last year a lot. And who else turned the ball over last year a lot? Jackson Arnold. Yes. So I think if you can win the turnover battle in that game, you can keep it close and hopefully win that game.
It's going to be a good one. That one's probably going to be the most entertaining game that you see with Missouri this season, just because it could go either way. I'm not calling. I guess I am. I'm calling it kind of a coin toss, and it just depends on, like you said, which team shows up that morning. And if Mizzou's there taking care of business, standing on business, as he likes to say, you do that, you're going to win. You come down there ill prepared and looking ahead, then you're going to get beat.
Well, another game they're going to have to kind of be locked in for is the Vanderbilt Commodores the very next week. A back-to-back road games. Yeah, well, look, you got to be locked in when you go against Diego Pavia. Maggie knows this. I've been on the Diego Pavia train for a while. I mean, when he was at New Mexico State, I was banging the drum for Mizzou to bring him in on the quarterback transfer portal. I was at the Vanderbilt game where there was a combined, I think, 6 missed field goals by the teams. That was a fun one. I remember when that game ended last year, the Missouri Vanderbilt game, all I could do was laugh. I was just like, this is the absolute most ridiculous football game I've ever watched. And maybe it's that way again, but I'm excited to see this next version of Vanderbilt, Missouri.
Well, you learned firsthand just how crazy this offense can be. You know, I mean, that you talk about keep away. Vanderbilt leads the country in keeping it away, and they do it with Pavia. Pavia is going to put his body on the line. He got banged up quite a bit last year. One thing that I will mention is schedule placement. Vanderbilt prior to this has played Bama, LSU. This is their week. Bama, LSU, you guys, then Texas. I mean, you're right in the middle of all that. So there's a good shot here. Vanderbilt is reeling. They're not as deep as the other SEC teams. They're sure as hell not deep as Missouri. I think Vandy takes a big step back last year because teams will be better prepared for that style offense. It's not easy to prepare. It's kind of like the option almost, like watching Georgia Tech or Navy back in the day. But it is a team that you can get dialed in on, and I think Missouri, after that scare last year, this is one that Drink's going to make sure they don't play with their food.
Right. I think this is one of those games where, as strong as their offense may be with Diego Pavia and Eli Stowers, who obviously came over from New Mexico, and Cedric Alexander at running back, like good position players like that, I don't think that their defense is going to live up to what their offense is. So I think that our defense is better, which is a great place to be in because you need to have a good defense to stop those pieces. But I liked what you said about them like controlling the clock. You got to limit their possession.
Yes,
that's just going to be the key to winning this game here.
Yeah, because you saw when Vanderbilt went 3 and out, they lost a lot. They lost those games. If you can keep them going 3 and out, not letting them do what they want to do, then that's the strong suit. And Missouri's going to be the opposite. They're going to give it over, and then Hardy's going to have 8 carries for a touchdown on that drive. You know, that's just how I see this game playing out. And once it gets out of hand, Vanderbilt's not built to come back. So get a couple scores on them, you're in good shape.
So they have a bye week after the Vanderbilt game. They go 2 road games, and they get a bye week, and then they get Texas A&M at home. Texas A&M also coming off a bye week for this game. There's a bad taste, and I think a lot of the Missouri Tigers' mouth about how that game ended and generally went last year. That one's going to be an interesting one. Texas A&M comes in 19 in the preseason AP poll. We'll see. Now, this is a little bit later than Missouri typically plays A&M, and you know about what A&M is about this point in the season usually. Yeah. Curious to see what they will be, but that'll be a tough one for the Tigers. Good is coming off of a bye, though.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough one. I do think Texas A&M's deeper. That really, I mean, I keep
pockets are deeper, so
yeah. I mean, they got the money, right? You know,
there's no oil in Missouri. I'll tell you that.
I think you guys are facing all the mobile quarterbacks in the country next year, or this season. Marcel Reed looks better in camp. Of course, that's throwing against air, and they're going to be a ground and pound. That's what Elko wants to do, similar to what Drink wants to do. Have a really good defense, stout defense, aggressive defense, create chaos in the backfield, and then hold on to the football and let's run it. They got plenty of running backs here. This may be the best offensive line that you guys face this season. A&M's a tough match, and I mean, you got to see it firsthand last year. This is one that I feel like you're glad you got them at home, but this November stretch right here, because now this is decision time. Okay, nobody remembers what you did in October. They remember what you did in November, and these next 4 games is what we got to close out. If Drink's going to take ultimately that next step, if he's going to take this football team to playoffs, college football playoffs, they can't. In my opinion, I don't think they can. They cannot afford to lose a game in November.
I think that that's the difficult part about this schedule. So everybody, you keep hearing people be like, oh my gosh, they don't leave home until, I'm like, you understand that means that we play on the road a lot at the end of the season, right? Like, it doesn't mean that the schedule is a lot easier because of that. Like, it doesn't change the opponents and that you still have to go there and play. As somebody that watched the A&M game very closely last year, and it's probably in my top 5 most embarrassing games that Mizzou's played, besides, like, I think Tennessee 2021 and Columbia was one of them. K-State in 2020, going to K-State in 2022 was one of them. This was also one of them. Yeah. And then you look at what they return. Like you said, basically their whole offensive line. That's a very good offensive line. Le'Veon Moss, who ran for 138 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Tigers last year. There was this big whole thing of, is Connor Ragin playing? Is Marcel Reed playing? And was kind of an idiot and wasn't prepared. And Connor Ragin played. And I think he was prepared for Marcel Reed. So maybe the team is still prepared for Marcel Reed. I'm kind of hoping that, a year later, they can carry that homework over. But yeah, this game scares me a lot. Like we said, they have a lot of money, so they get a lot of good players. That's just, they're a weird team because they'll go and they'll kill Mizzou and then they'll lay an egg against other teams, and they don't seem to ever really do that against us. We either get a good game and we maybe narrowly beat them like in 2013 or they kill us. So I'm just hoping that, we can come in, we can be more prepared, and maybe we can pray for our defensive line versus their offensive line.
Well, the saving grace is A&M. I mean, they did implode last year at the end of the season. So, at this point, I always joke, but it's the truth. You kind of have to have a little lady luck on your side, because an injury here, an injury there. I feel like prime example, if Reed's out, I feel like it would hurt them a million times worse than if Prabula was the guy, or if, Sam Horn got hurt or something. I don't know. Right now, I have no idea who's the starting quarterback at Mizzou. Nobody's texting me about it. But I'm just thinking that I think it would hurt a team like Texas A&M a little bit more. And he's mobile. He's skinny. He's a small guy. I mean, he's put on a little weight, but not enough I don't think, to be too aggressive in this conference. So, you just never know what's going to happen by that date.
Couple of big ones to wrap up the schedule. We don't really have to dive into Mississippi State all that much, unless you think that the Bulldogs are going to be.
I think they have I think over the past 2 years they've had 60 transfers. We took their best player. Yeah.
Hell, their quarterback's I'm going to go down to Louisiana and be a backup. It's like, what are you doing? Yeah,
the state of that program is not great.
They do get their quarterback Blake Shapen back, which he beat up on some not good teams early last year, but he beat up on them. They still lost those games, mind you. They still lost to Toledo and things like that. Yeah. So I just don't. I've seen some people picking them to be a dark horse in the SEC, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm like, what are we talking about here? Yeah, I obviously like Mizzou in this game, and I like Kevin Coleman Jr. to go off.
I mean, this is going to be his game to do so. And I will say, don't completely give up on it, because one of the things that does scare me about Levy's system is it doesn't bode well for teams like Mizzou, teams like A&M, teams like Vanderbilt, some of these that I've talked about, Florida Gators. These are teams that, whether you like it or not, Mississippi State can find a way to put points on the boards. They're feeling a lot better in year 2 in that Levy system. Levy's got more of his guys there. Yeah. I think Mississippi State sneaks up and grabs one, potentially 2 SEC teams. I just don't think it's Missouri. It better not be Missouri, or I just throw it all out the window.
I did just look at their schedule. Missouri follows Georgia on Mississippi State's schedule, so they are.
But they had some fight in them. I mean, say what you want. They fought Mississippi State, gave Georgia a hard time last year. They gave Tennessee a hard time. Texas, there was a couple of games that you would just think that they would have steamrolled them, but somehow they kind of hung in there. But that's because everybody thought they could just go in there and beat Mississippi State. Well, it helps, like you said, you go in there and you take the best receiver and their best quarterback, but they still got some dudes in that locker room.
I also thought just seeing this this is the first time I'm laying eyes on Mississippi State's schedule. Truthfully, I'm not real locked into the Bulldogs.
Yeah,
admittedly so. They have Texas for homecoming, so that's going to be fun in Starkville.
Who playing that one?
I kind of wish Mizzou would have picked, like, had some balls and picked Alabama as their homecoming, because homecoming at Mizzou is such a big deal, and it's always in October, and we're like, oh, the only home game we have in October is Alabama. No, like, I kind of wish they would have just like went up there and been like, we're not scared to have you on homecoming.
Yeah.
I went to that game last year and we were their homecoming, so I just kind of wish we would have like returned the favor a little bit. But
who's your homecoming game?
It's UMass.
Well, I mean, that's what you do, right?
Yeah.
We did that in high school. You kind of pick the shittiest team in your conference, and that's who you go, I guess.
I get the point of it, but I just kind of wish that they would have been like, you know what? No, like,
let's
not run from it. Just embrace it. It doesn't matter if you lose the game. Like, what does it matter if it's homecoming and you lose? Like, it's a loss.
There's a little something to it. I remember a while back, Florida and LSU did a similar thing when they were going with their rivalry, and Florida made LSU the homecoming game, or vice versa, one of those, and ended up they lost it. So, you don't want to give Alabama extra ammunition. It's
True.
like you got it a good spot there, but I do like the gusto there. Just let's do it. If we're gonna do it, let's go all out.
Yeah,
I'm trying to see if we're Auburn's homecoming, because I feel like it's at a good time. But
that's one thing I probably should know more. But the homecoming thing, I've never really followed it since at college. But yeah,
they have South Alabama as their homecoming.
Okay, so they win
September 13th. That's the third week of the season.
Let's get it over with, huh?
Let's get this one out of here. We might
there for
be
like
good by then. Yeah.
Interesting.
You can tell fat guys who like homecoming. We were never invited to anything homecoming. It's like, whatever.
Well, let's talk about Oklahoma. Because much improved team. Their quarterback might be in trouble for gambling. I don't know. Might not be. He might just be an idiot, which is that also.
Let's go with the latter on that one.
Either way, he would be an idiot. But yeah. So John Mateer, the number one transfer, I think, in a lot of places, lands at Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma also gets the Cal running back Jaden Knott. So like they got some transfers this year. They're a new look team. This is a team that is coming off of a loss to Missouri and a game you guys were at that was probably pretty embarrassing for Oklahoma fans. I can only imagine of how that one ended. This game now in Oklahoma ranked at number 18th in the preseason poll. I'm curious to how this one will go, especially I like how this is late in the season too.
Yeah.
I think this is another one late in the season. It feels like it could be a great restart to a budding rivalry, especially how the first matchup went.
Absolutely. And Oklahoma could be in a weird situation here, depending on the success or lack thereof prior to this date, because
Absolutely.
Venable's on the hottest of hot seats right now, and being the second to last football game, it's clear cut what the future will hold for him. I don't feel like Mizzou would be a play-in game. I feel like it would, if they end up losing that one, he may lose his job just because that was like the icing on the cake. But this one's a doozy. This is a really good football team. Really good defense. Cole Kublik, we talked to him down at Media Days, says the best defensive lineman in the conference. So that again, you're looking at Mizzou. What do they like to do? They like to run the football. And on the flip side, the offense, I feel like I've not seen enough from John Mateer to just crown him and think he's going to be God's gift to football, even though he's kind of been put on this pedestal. But, if he does hit 80% of that, there's definitely going to be some improvement with this Oklahoma football team. This is a scary, scary matchup. This is one that probably will, this could be a shoe-in. This could be a play-in game for Missouri here. You just can't lose this one, but at this point, Oklahoma may have nothing to lose, which could be scary as well.
Yeah.
like you said, this is an interesting one to me too, because I'm looking at it. I really like their defense. I actually think it's kind of crazy that people are talking about how their defense could be better this year than it was last year. And last year it was actually a pretty good defense. It's the only reason that they were in like basically every game that they were in. For John Mateer, I have some questions because I've only seen him play against trash teams. Like that's just kind of like
it's just where we're at.
It's just where we're at. I think they played 2 Power 4 opponents last year in Oregon State, and they played somebody else. I can't remember who it was, but like he hasn't really played anybody. Not that I'm saying I don't think he's good. I do think he's good, but he didn't really play anybody. Jaden Knott's a question mark for me too, because 2 years ago he had a great season. Last year, he obviously got hurt, but even when he came back from injury, he was kind of a dud. Like he didn't, didn't really do that much. And then, I mean, because you look at Brady Cook when he came back last year from his injury, and then he had that South Carolina game and he had a great game. So it's like, I don't know the extent of the injury. What I'll be looking for is the offensive line, really. Like, how have they improved on that offensive line? Because their offensive line was also trash last year. Another thing, too, is the wide receivers. I know that they have Deion Burks, who I think is a very good wide receiver. Yeah, he is. But they lost quite a few guys. I know one guy went to LSU, and then they replaced them with a bunch of FCS wide receivers. Like, didn't go out and get anybody with, like, any Power 4 experience or anything like that. So there's just a lot of questions for me still on that offensive side. Really like their defense. And I at this point right now, before, the second to last week of the season, I like Oklahoma to win this game. And like I said, the season still has to play out. You still got to play the games. But I cannot see Oklahoma being like, oh, last year was no big deal when we lost to a team we've been playing for 100 years and we lost in embarrassing fashion. Yes. That's not okay for the University of Oklahoma. We all know that. I think that they're going to be ready and rearing to go for this game.
My biggest concern is the schedule. And if you're not familiar, Oklahoma's got Michigan, Auburn, Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, you guys, and LSU. There is a real shot prior to that Missouri game that they don't have a winning record. And if that's the case, then I'm not worried about them at all. But if this is one of those teams, I mean, there's a handful of these teams that really got to start strong in September. If they can get to that Red River, potentially undefeated or with one loss, I feel like they've got a shot. But they got so many competitive football games up to this point. And you mentioned the line. Part of the reason the offensive line was bad was just because they were injured. Part of the reason the receivers were bad because they weren't. I mean, Nick, you mentioned Nick going down to LSU. Hell, he didn't play. Deion didn't play. So there was so many injuries. And
Deion did play against us, I'm pretty positive.
Yeah. Well, Venable said the other day, in 30 years of coaching, he's never seen anything like it. So you got to kind of keep that in your mind. Like, if that was just a one-off, if they're at 80% of that, 70% of that, what does this Oklahoma football team look like? I don't have high expectations. And the main reason I don't is because I always use it as a temperature gauge when we go down to media days. Every Oklahoma guy that came over to our table, I never got the warm fuzzies that we're going to be all right. They're excited. They think they're going to be better, but I don't think they think they're there just yet.
That's actually shocking to me, because if there's any fan base that I feel like has a fanboy media people, it's Oklahoma. So that's a little bit of a shock to me.
But I will say this going into 2025, this league has never had more parity than it does right now. And what I mean by that, top to bottom, these teams are so damn close that it's splitting hairs. And it would not blow my mind if we're going into this Missouri game and Oklahoma is 9-2 or 9-1. That's just where we're at right now. And any given Saturday, it could absolutely happen. I don't think it does. I'm not Venmoing anybody money over this bet, but I will say that
just
going in
pizza and beer, Shane.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing an emoji on it and sending it. You know what it's for.
It's so funny. It's such like a dumb idiot kid thing to do too, because I know I don't want to go back through my Venmo history and see what I've titled.
I immediately went home and put mine on private because I don't know what I said.
I don't need people airing out my Venmo request from when I was in college. So, also, I just pulled up Oklahoma's schedule too. They go to Temple.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What are we
Stupid
doing?
schedule. Yeah.
Doing, man.
North Carolina goes to Charlotte.
That's like y'all going to UMass last year. It's like, what are we doing?
We got so much crap going to UMass, and then I looked up all the teams that are playing like in weird places this year. I'm like, what?
Yeah. It makes no sense.
It's crazy. All right, let's wrap up with this last one here. The Arkansas game. This is a rivalry that has not that's not a rivalry according to Arkansas fans, but they're right because they don't win it. That's why it's not a rivalry. People think that this Arkansas team is going to be better. It probably will be better because of the bar that they have to surpass from last year. But what do you think, Shane, about this Arkansas team heading into this one?
I mean, I love Taylor Green. I really do, or Talon, as Drink likes to call him, and I think he's a special talent. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, man, like Tennessee's struggling to have a quarterback. I said, I'd give anything to have Taylor over there. You know, I immediately, he changes a program. However, it's Arkansas. It's end of the year. Sam may already be gone by this point.
True.
I really think that this should not be a football game for you guys. I would have Missouri as a heavy favorite. And I always say it. I love Sam Pittman, and I'll say it till my last breath. He's a great, great guy, but I think it's time for a new chapter in Arkansas, especially if we get to this one and they've got a losing record or they're not hitting the bowl game, which I think is definitely in the cards.
Yeah, their schedule's pretty tough. I also really like Taylor Green. Looks like he threw for 3,154 yards last year and 15 touchdowns. I forgot to write down how many turnovers he had last year, but he did have quite a few.
Yeah.
My biggest issue for Taylor Green is who's he throwing the ball to?
They got a few guys.
I mean,
yeah,
they got a couple. They got a couple guys. I mean, but not. They don't have much in their wide receiver room in terms of talent that you're looking at that we're playing against, like the rest of the season, and not against guys that I think would be that difficult on our corners and our safeties. I just don't really see it. I'm nervous about their defense.
It's the defense for me.
Yeah.
I think they'll be able to score on just about anybody in the country. They just won't be able to stop anybody. Yeah. And by this time, they're going to be extremely thin because of injuries. It's happening. But Taylor Green, second-year Bobby P system, yeah, they're going to have receivers emerge. We talked to Trummel, Falls, Oklahoma down there. He says he goes to talk about the easiest position to fill as a wide receiver role. And I was like, he may have a point here in the SEC. They're going to find a receiver, but at the end of the day, do they have enough talent to keep up with teams? They won't. They just don't. And so and not to mention the offensive line, I'm not sold on them just yet. Even though that's Sam's baby, I feel like Mizzou could live in the backfield going against these guys. But yeah, this should not be a close game at all.
9 interceptions is what I'm seeing, Maggie, for Taylor Green. I was trying to find fumbles, but apparently ESPN just doesn't keep fumbles for quarterbacks, which is kind of crazy.
I know for sure he fumbled the ball against us last year.
He did. He started, and that's one thing that I did see. I did see progression with him. Most of his turnovers were at the start of the season, which, again, that's why there's a little bit more excitement, a little more buzz coming out of Arkansas, just because coming into this year, if he can clean that up. But so many quarterbacks got banged up last year, and you will talk about a huge drop off. Arkansas has one in that quarterback room, and if something happens to Taylor Green, pack your bag, Sam. You're gone.
Yeah. So I mean, look, this is a schedule. It's a slate from Missouri where I think that Arkansas to end the year is something that Missouri fans have obviously gotten used to and comfortable with. Arkansas is coming off of Texas, also, by the way. So they'll have Texas in Austin, and then they'll host Missouri to end up the year. So I guess kind of to round this out. What's your record prediction? Shane? I mean, what do you think you got this team at? We went through every single game. We've practically said what we think. We've practically given the people what their records are.
Yeah.
But if you're going to put a number to it, your name right next to the number, what do you think it's going to be?
I think Mizzou's 10-2, man. I think 9-3 worst case scenario, but and what I'm looking at is the Alabama game.
Yep.
And then I go back and forth between the A&M South Carolina game. I feel like there's a loss somewhere between those two teams. That's why I think that Oklahoma game will be pivotal, because similar to last year's Mizzou or South Carolina game, that may be the play-in for the college football playoff, and can't afford to drop it. So there's going to be some nail biters, but I'm convinced. Drinks told me, I mean, he's never lied to me, other than a towel. So I don't know, or the blanket game. I don't. But he's.
We don't know, guys.
That's hearsay.
That is
Drink came. I will say this: Drink's a stand-up dude, and he was the first one to ever give that SEC podcast a shot. I mean, we were back when we started doing media, it was all radio people, right? And it's the same old whatever. Then there's these podcasters show up, and Drink took time, and I've been indebted with him ever since. But he also took time to come up there on Radio Row and didn't talk to anyone else. It came over there, talked to us. And I appreciate his honesty, and I just, that's why he's a good recruiter. That's why he's a hell of a person, is because of what he's doing, and I'm completely bought in. I mean, hell, look at where you guys are compared to where you were before he showed up, and you get used to 10-win seasons, Now you want that next thing. And I feel like you're on the fringe there. And when he's telling me that this is the deepest roster he's ever had, this is the most talent he's had since he's been in Columbia, I'm hearing great reports from the defense. I really don't care who's quarterback. I know it sounds crazy, but I don't think that's the linchpin to the success that Mizzou's going to have this year. This is going to be a offense, run happy offense. And I feel like at the end of the day, you win the games you are favored in, you're potentially playing a college football playoff spot. So yeah, 10-2, 9-3 worst case scenario.
Maggie?
It's funny that you mentioned that about Drink, because about him like coming up to you guys and talking to you. He is super loyal to people who are like loyal to him, but as everyone knows, like, he's a petty bitch. Like, he will.
Yeah, he'll tell you.
He will tell you. He will. And he did SEC Media Days this year, and I said something to Cole Thompson about it last week, because SEC Unfiltered was there, but there was only like 12 other people sitting there. Like, he's gonna reward you if you are treating him well, if you're covering his team. So I'm sure that's the exact same way that he looks at you. And I've heard him shout you out a couple times too.
Shane Beamer's the same way. I told him last year that he'd be the first coach fired in the SEC. So we come up media days. First thing he says to me, here's the guy that said I was going to be the host. I was like, damn. I was like, I was wrong. I did apologize and wore a sign, apologizing there in South Carolina. But yeah, these coaches, you'd be surprised how many are listening. They like to know what folks are saying. And if Drink's listening, I still have not got any chips or anything from, I got one bag of Luther chips last year, and that was it. So I was a little disappointed in that.
We can, the Mizzou That's Who podcast, we can send you. We can. I don't know who's going to be on this year's bag, so we'll have to figure that out. We've got some frozen pizzas and stuff. Like, there's kind of a little bit more like perishable, but we can figure it out.
We'll figure it out. We'll make it work.
As for my predictions, I think that's kind of where you're heading to, Tucker. I have Mizzou at 9-3 right now. I have us losing that game to Alabama, because, like I've said on this podcast numerous times, I'm not picking Mizzou to beat Alabama until Mizzou beats Alabama. So I'm taking Alabama, obviously, in that one. I'm taking them in the Texas A&M game. Also, I know they're home games. People will probably give me crap, but Texas A&M's a good team. They're typically a little bit better than the 8-4. And I'm giving the win right now to Oklahoma as well. And I know that a lot of people are going to fight me on that one, but I just think because of the revenge from last year, I'm picking that. But a lot of things can happen from my prediction right now leading up into those games. Like you said, injuries can happen. If Oklahoma's not playing for anything, if Arkansas is not playing for anything, those games change. I mean, you've heard John Neighbors say for years that Arkansas just has better talent, but just doesn't win the game. I mean, you just never know what's going to happen towards later in the season. So he's probably going to love getting.
He did go to Neighbors table. I forgot about that one. And honestly, all that shit started when he came over to the podcast. People are afraid to come over to our booth now because they're afraid one of the coaches is going to be mad at him.
Just have a knack for getting clips. That's what it is. You got a knack for clips. So Maggie, I'm right there with you. I know that I got Luther Burden on the brain. Sorry. Can you blame me?
The chips. I have the chips.
It was the chips. Yeah. He's got Jordan Schultz tweeting about how good of a wide receiver he is. I mean, look, we've arrived at the Luther Burden hype train.
Hell yeah.
I think when I think about Drinkwitz being high on this team, right? This is a roster. When I look at it personally, it's not. I don't think it's the deepest roster that he's had at the University of Missouri. I mean, last year's roster was pretty darn good. Last year's offensive line, you felt pretty darn good about, and you felt pretty darn good going into that season about how that roster was shaping up. So I know we talked about this last week, but it's one of those things of like, man, if you're not really sure about your roster, you want people to be unsure about your roster too, right? Like you don't want to hype it up as much as Drinkwitz has to kind of hedge your expectations a little bit, but he's not shying away from any of it, man. Like he is all for it. So like that makes me a little bit more excited about it. But I got this team at like 9-3 just because the two that I've got the I think they beat South Carolina early, but I think it's the A&M late, and I think it's that stretch of Auburn, Alabama. I think that's a tough stretch there, especially going on the road, playing at Jordan Hare. That's your first road game of the season. I think that's going to be a tough one for them. I still think that they get Oklahoma at the end of it, but then still playing for a bowl game and a chance for another 10-win season. Like I think that's really what you can ask for as a Missouri fan. Like there were days when Barry Odom after he took over for Gary Pinkel, you were begging for a bowl game. Now you're like, well,
2022, we were begging for it. We were like sitting at 2-6, like, or 2-4 or something, and it was bad.
Well, all three of us are sitting there. We're going into November with the opportunity to get into a college football playoff. Absolutely. And I mean, who would not sign up for that? We're talking, this could come down to 3 games. And if the cards go your way, then all of a sudden you guys are bowling, I mean, but if they don't, then we hit the portal and we try it one more time next year.
Again. Yeah.
That or expand to 30. Some way we're gonna get this damn playoff.
Hit the
just
slot
do it
again.
Drink keeps pushing for it. I mean,
he tries, man. Yeah.
I think people are kind of confused on what he is saying.
I totally. I mean, he came over, explained it.
He's saying like do the play-in games within the conference, I think, to like get in there. But everybody's like, what? Nobody wants the top 30 teams. I'm like, I don't think that's what he's saying, but it doesn't matter. You can't explain anything to somebody on Twitter.
No.
I kind of think he's trolling a little bit too. As there's part of him that's like a bit tongue in cheek and he's trolling. But anything he says, I'm like, he's not being serious about
it's marketing too. It's marketing, brand recognition. The more that Drink can talk and get shit stirred up, the more people are going to be talking about Mizzou. 100%. And that's exactly what we got to have if you want to stay there. I mean, you guys are in a window right now. Like we always talk about Lane Kiffin and how successful he is. The only reason we're doing that is because he's been doing it 1 year longer than Drink has. Yeah. And if Drink goes to another 10, 11 win season, then I don't think there's any question who's opening up the top 25 poll. You know what I'm saying? It's always going to be Mizzou. Mizzou's going to stay put, but it feels like this is I don't want to say must, but this is a big year for you guys because they still consider you a one-hit wonder until you do it. And it feels like that third year, like the third time you do it, then all of a sudden we're like, you know what? Maybe Drake is a good coach.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Shane, appreciate you being so generous with your time here, man. I appreciate you hopping on the podcast, talking some SEC ball. We are almost there. We are so close.
So damn close. 2 weeks. Get your honeydews over with right now because my ass ain't leaving the couch.
Oh, that's perfect. So for Maggie Johnson, I'm Tucker Franklin. Thank you to Cousin Shane for hopping on here and looking at this whole schedule for you guys. We'll be back next week with another edition of Mizzou That's Who. We'll talk to you guys then.
All right, see you guys in Mizzou.